Class is in memory of Jared Orchen, and today we're going to learn from the Tractate Brachot 34b4. We will study about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, a famous rabbi, but different than the other rabbis. We will start with the Mishnah, and then we'll continue with the Gemara. The Mishnah and the Gemara, together, they are called Talmud. The Mishnah was taught and written much before the Gemara. The Mishnah is more like codes of Jewish law. What you have to do, in short. And that was taught by Hillel and by Shammai during the time of the Second Temple. And it was written by Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, who lived 60 years after the destruction of the Second Temple.
He's writing roughly about the year 200 CE.
200 CE? Really? So late, after 100 years after the Temple.
A little over 100 years.
A little over 100 years. Then he wrote the Mishnah. He basically decided what code of law will go into the Mishnah book and what will not come in. And he was a very strong leader. And to make the decision to write down the whole tradition was a very big decision, because by Jewish law, the way Moses gave it, the written Torah should be written. That means to say the 5 books of Moses should be written, the prophets should be written, and the oral tradition, the commentary, is not allowed to be written. He saw that if he will not write it down, we'll be lost. And he said, it's a time to save Judaism, we have to write down the old commentary. And he started to write down the Mishnah. Then what is the Gemara? The Gemara is the rabbis who learned the Mishnah and developed it. Try to understand similar rules. Try to understand what the Mishnah is talking about. And from the Mishnah and the Gemara together, and the Gemara was written by Rav Ashi, right? And when was Rav Ashi? How many years ago?
Well, he and his disciples, but about 500 CE is, or 600 depending upon some commentators, but
Even
500
600 CE? Oh, 600
CE.
I would say 500 probably. Yeah, but a few hundred years after the Mishnah. Together, it makes the Mishnah and the Gemara together, it's called the Talmud. Now, when you look on the Hebrew Talmud page, there is also commentaries around it. There is the Mishnah, then there is the Gemara, that's the text, so to speak. Then around it, there's one side Rashi, who lived 900 years ago. He gives like a literal commentary to the Mishnah and the Gemara. And there is a commentary and there is on the other side the Tosfot. Tosfot is rabbis who lived also close to this time, and they also gave commentary to the Talmud. In a different way, we'll not go into it. Now we'll start with a Mishnah, and then we'll go to the Gemara.
This Talmud is the Babylonian, right?
That's the Babylonian Talmud, who was written after the Jerusalem Talmud. But that's another story in itself. Okay, Mishnah. The Mishnah?
The Mishnah continues the discussion of errors that occur during prayer and their implications. One who prayed and erred, it is a bad sign for him.
Somebody made a mistake during davening. It was the Chazan. Go ahead. It continues.
And if he is the prayer leader, then it is a bad sign for the congregation who sent him to represent them.
That's bad news. Therefore, we send somebody who knows how to pray. Should make like mistakes.
Since a person's agent is like himself.
That's in general a rule in Judaism. Your agent is like you. The agent can marry a woman for you, so to speak. Can deliver the ring, in essence. Let's say you're too busy to go to your own chuppah. Then you can have an agent. You can have an agent to deliver the divorce papers and so on. There is agents for many, many things in Judaism. That's what a shliach is. A shliach means an agent. Chabad rabbis are called shluchim. A shliach means an agent like the person himself. That's what lays behind it.
They said about...
Here is what we are talking about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Go ahead. They said about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa
that he would pray for the sick and would then say, this one will live and this one will die.
Okay. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was a Rebbe. People used to come to him and ask him to pray for the sick. And when he finished to pray, he used to say, this guy was going to live, this guy is going to die. before anything happened. He knew right away when it's going to work, who is he pray, when his prayers were accepted or not. Go ahead.
Whereupon they said to him, "How do you know?" He answered them, "If my prayer is fluent in my mouth, then I know it has been well received and the sick person will recover. But if it is not, then I know that my prayer has been rejected."
This is not about every person. Let's not take it wrong. If your prayers, if your prayer was not fluent, or don't get depressed if tomorrow your prayers are not going exactly the way you want. But the idea is, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said, if his prayers are going, he knows Hashem accepted it, and this person will live. Prayers are not going, you saw this kind of behavior by tzaddikim throughout Jewish history, by their reactions. If there were some Hasidic rabbis in Europe. If they took the note from you in your hand, you knew that there is hope. If they used to tell you put it on the table, you know there is no hope. I mean, even by the Rebbe, you were able to see by his reaction where is this going. If he didn't say anything, it's not good. He used to say Hashem will help, like a very general statement. That we pray, but we don't know what's going to happen. And we saw there were Hasidim of many rabbis knew by the clues. By the cues of the rabbis, they knew before everything if it's going to work or not. And sometimes they used to argue and try to change the future, trying to force the rabbi cooperating with them. You should pray for them, and the prayers should be answered. Okay, that's the Mishnah. The Mishnah told us about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa that used to pray for the sick, and he knew right away if the prayers went fluent. He knew this person is being answered. These prayers were answered. If the prayer was not fluent, he knew it's not. It's too late. Now we'll continue on the bottom of this page. The last paragraph on the left column. Continuing
Continuing one of the themes of our Mishnah, the Gemara tells us of an instance where Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa prayed for one who was ill. The rabbis taught in a Baraisa. It once happened that Rabban Gamaliel's son fell ill.
Rabban Gamliel, you remember him? The leader of the Jewish people? The leader! He's everything. His son got sick. Go ahead.
Rabban Gamliel sent two scholars to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa requesting that he seek divine mercy for him. As soon as Rabbi Chanina saw them approaching, he went up to the attic and sought divine mercy for him.
He saw them. Obviously, Rabbi Chanina already knew that his son is sick. I mean, he saw the guys are coming in the name of Rabban Gamliel from his yeshiva. He knew where they're coming from. That he went up to his attic. That was a style to pray, to go upstairs, like kind of thing, to pray in your own personal place. I think it was about Ezra. Who prayed towards Jerusalem?
Jeremiah.
Daniel.
Oh.
Daniel used to pray
Toward Jerusalem.
Towards Jerusalem.
Okay.
That used to go up to his attic and he used to pray. Things like this. Then he went to his attic. Go ahead.
On coming down from the attic, he said to them, "Go back to Rabban Gamliel, and the fever has left him."
He said, the kid is good, it's better. The kid is doing better. Don't worry. The fever has left him.
They asked him, "Are you then a prophet? How could you know that?" He said to them, "I am neither a prophet nor the son of a prophet. Rather, I have a tradition, that if my prayer is fluent in my mouth, then I know that it has been well received, and the sick person will recover. But if not, then I know that my prayer has been rejected."
Then he said the same thing. He told them, simple, it's easy. Easy for somebody who is connected. I mean, we'll get to it. But easy not for us. I know what means it was fluent, not fluent. Okay. These two disciples were not lazy. They wanted to see if he was Rabbi Chanina. They were disciples of Rabbi Gamliel. They couldn't take the idea that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is greater than their Rebbe. You know what I mean? It's a problem. Then they said, what they did. Want to continue?
They sat down and recorded the exact time when this happened.
They wrote down, he said, now he's doing better. They wrote down the date and the time exactly.
And when they came back to Rabban Gamliel and told him about it, he said to them, "By the divine service,
By the divine service means almost like I swear to you.
you have neither detracted from nor added to the time of his recovery. It happened just so, At that very time, the fever left him, and he asked us for some water to drink.
I mean, it says, yes, exactly that hour and that time when you wrote down, this is the time we saw a change. Not like the fever walked and he started to recover, the journey for his recovery. That Rabbi Gamliel, the great Rabbi Gamliel, needed the help of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, and he came to pray for his own son. He might be the leader of the Jewish people, but he needed Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa for this. Now comes the second story. Go ahead.
And another thing happened concerning Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, who went to study Torah from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai.
It means Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, we learned about him last week, was greater than Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina went to learn Torah by him, right?
And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's son fell ill. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, Chanina, my son, seek divine mercy for him that he might live.
Chanina, my son, he calls him, and he's begging him to pray for his own child.
So Rabbi Chanina lay his head between his knees and sought divine mercy for him, and he lived.
It was a style of praying basically to a noble, maybe it's like bowing. You know what I mean? I think you read between your knees, it's like a person who bows to God. And he prayed for him? Yeah, for a lift. Go ahead.
Whereupon Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, had ben Zakkai, I myself, stuck his head between his knees all day long, they would not have paid any attention to him in the heavenly court.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said about himself. This Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that you learned last week, how great he was, and the whole nation came to hear his Torah and everything. The leader of the Jews. Everything we know in Judaism today is style. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said the style. He says, if I would daven the whole day, the heavenly court wouldn't pay attention to me.
His wife said to him, is Chanina then greater than you?
Oh, I thought you're the greatest rabbi. You give me a right that you're the biggest chochem and you're the holy man. And when push comes to shove, we need to go to Chanina, but then what I need you for?
He said to her, no. Rather, he is like a servant before the king who comes and goes freely and is on intimate terms with him, while I am like an important officer before the king, appearing in the palace only on important occasions, and am therefore on less intimate terms with him.
Now, before we run anywhere, what does this mean? He's like a servant, and I'm like a minister. A servant is by the king all the time. He doesn't need appointments. He doesn't need anything. He can come. The cleaning lady goes in whenever she wants. She doesn't need an appointment with the prime minister or with the president. She walks in and cleans, even when he's sitting on the telephone or is making the biggest important meetings. Where a minister needs to have a time to go in. He says, I might be a minister, but a servant is more powerful. Where we see it in the Bible. Who is called a servant of God? Moses, that on one end was like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is more like Moses, the great scholar of the Torah, but Moses is called a servant of God. And what God says about him, because he's a servant, at the same line, is trusted in my house. Bechol beiti ne'emanu. He's trusted everywhere in my house. It means to say that a servant can go in and out. We can trust him 150%. We give him the keys. The servant, you give the keys. You don't give your keys to the minister. The minister doesn't have the keys of the office. The servant has the keys of the office. He says he has a more a child-parent relationship that I have, basically, than Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai has. Then who was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa that got such a special relationship with God that even Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the great Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, did not have? Then let's turn the page and we'll read a few stories about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. We'll get an idea who he was.
Do you want me to start with the Gemara now relate to series of stories?
Yes.
All right. About the town of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was once walking on the road. when the rains came. He said before God, Master of the universe, the entire world is at ease, but Chanina is in distress. The rains ceased as a result of Rabbi Chanina's prayer.
Yeah? So just like this. Go ahead.
When he reached his house, he said before God, Master of the universe, the entire world is in distress, while Chanina is at ease. The rains came again as a result of this prayer.
Not bad.
Huh?
Not bad.
Not bad, huh? He was a miracle maker. There were always among the Jewish people two types of leaders. There were the great scholars, and there were miracle makers who were able to bend nature. Holy people that had the power to bend nature. All the stories of the Baal Shem Tov are based on this. And he's a holy man, that nature is not a contradiction to him. He has to accomplish what needs to accomplish. If nature is a problem, we'll make a miracle. What needs to be accomplished will be accomplished. Now we'll skip into the second column. The Gemara notes the greatness of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and the poverty in which he lived.
Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, each and every day a heavenly voice emanates and proclaims, the entire world receives its sustenance in the merit of Chanina, my son, while Chanina, my son, finds it sufficient to live on just one cow or cherub from one Shabbat Eve to the next Shabbat Eve, from Friday to Friday.
The Talmud makes an amazing statement. That Hashem says the whole world deserves the sustenance because of Chanina. Means there is always one tzaddik, then the world, so to speak, deserves to exist because of him. He makes it all worthwhile for the world to exist. God says for him alone it's worth it to have the whole world running around him. Then he says because of Chanina the whole world is existing, and he himself, Rabbi Chanina, is so poor that he has only one cup of cherubs, one measurement, like a pound of cherubs, is enough for him for a whole week.
What
He has not
cherubs?
Chocolate. It's not really chocolate. Frozen
cherubs, not
Cherubs.
chocolate.
It has a taste of chocolate,
Yeah,
but it's not. Yeah,
It's a vegetable? Fruit?
No, it's
like a
it's
seed
growing.
actually.
Comes
Ah?
from a plant.
It's like a
Comes
seed.
from a plant, yeah.
it comes from a tree.
From a tree, yes. You eat it on Tu B'Shvat, there is a custom to eat that. Yeah. Then basically, he needs nothing. Now the Talmud comes and gives us stories of the poverty, the unbelievable poverty that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was living. Go ahead.
The Gemara relates an incident regarding the wife of Reb Chanina ben Dosa. His wife was in the habit of heating the oven every Friday and throwing in a smoke-causing substance.
Basically, she used to, okay, why? Because
Because of embarrassment.
of embarrassment. She was embarrassed that she doesn't have anything to cook. Everybody is cooking Friday afternoon. She's the only one who has nothing to cook. She the oven just to, it should look like something is happening there.
She had this bad neighbor who said to herself, "Now let me see. I know that these people have nothing. What is producing all this smoke coming out of the oven?" She went and knocked on the door. Reb Chanina's wife felt embarrassed and withdrew to the inner chamber.
She was embarrassed. She knocked on the door to see what they're cooking there. What they're baking there. They have nothing, these people.
A miracle was wrought for her, and her neighbor saw an oven full of bread and a kneading trough full of dough. The neighbor called out to her, "Madam, madam, bring a baker's shovel because your bread is getting burnt." Reb Chanina's wife replied to her, "Indeed, it was for this reason that I went into the inner chamber, that is, to fetch a baker's shovel." A Tana taught, she indeed entered the inner chamber to bring a baker's shovel, for she was accustomed to miracles being wrought for her.
It means to say like this. First of all, the story alone, you could say, she saw bread inside the oven. Not necessarily that was actually bread inside the oven. She called the wife of Rabbi Chanina, said, bring a shovel to take us out. She said, yeah, I went to bring a shovel. Could be by that time the neighbor left and there was no shovel and there was no bread and there was no nothing. It was just an illusion. But the Tana later concludes, it says, she actually went to bring a shovel because she In her life, miracles was normal, was the norm. It was not something above nature. She lived with a man that they lived on miracles. They didn't live a normal existence. Really, if you think about it, the Jewish people exist like this. They say that the most realistic thing in Israel is to believe in miracles. The whole world is against you. Armies from all sides. That we still existing there, it's a huge miracle. And that was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. That was a miracle man. And there was quite a few of this type of rabbis in the Talmud. Who is another one like this?
Choni
Me'agel. Choni who made a circle and he says, God, or you bring rain, or I'm not moving here until you bring rain. He was also a miracle maker. They were the great scholars and the miracle makers. Two types of holy people within the Jewish people. Two types of leaders.
They call this group Hasids as well. What's the kind of connection? There wasn't any direct connection between this group and the later Hasidim, 1,500 years later.
You're right. Now, but the concept is the same. The later Hasidim were named after this, because a Chassid means a pious man. A Chassid means the guy who goes the extra mile. Chassid is giving in every time. A Chassid is the guy who is he is apologizing when you have to apologize to him. Mr. A insulted Mr. B. That Mr. A has to apologize to Mr. B. The Chassid, Mr. B, goes and apologizes to Mr. A. That's a Chassid. How many people are ready to do this? And he makes an effort then to make peace with Mr. A. Even Mr. A was obnoxious and he was the one who started the whole thing. And it's clear, there's no discussion about it. Everybody knows that, Mr. A knows that he was the bad guy. Still the Chassid goes out. The Chassid is the one who goes the extra mile in every Jewish thing, he sacrifices his own good, his physical good and his spiritual good for the sake of another person. And that's the same thing, and that's what makes you so powerful by God, because of this character. When God sees that it's not about you, it's about others, then God is ready to help you. When you become like God, what means like God? God wants people, get the good for the people. When you become like God, that you want the good of the people, not your own good, then you have this key, this power. The Gemara now
relates another story about this intensely pious couple. Once, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's wife said to him, How long are we going to continue to suffer so much from dire poverty?
For how long it is going to go on? His wife told him, Biflashir, what's going on here?
He said to her, What should we do? She replied, Pray for mercy that you should be given something of value. He prayed
something of value. He had nothing of value. He was a great tzaddik, but he had nothing no financial value. Go ahead.
He prayed for mercy, and something like the palm of a hand emerged from heaven. And he was given one leg of a golden table.
He was given a leg of a golden table. Basically, a piece of gold that was enough to survive, to live for a while.
He then said to her, I have seen in a dream that in the future the righteous are eating at a golden table that has 3 legs, but you are eating at a table that has only 2 legs.
Oh, told her in the future, after when we come to heaven, or when Mashiach comes, the resurrection of the dead, or after life, the righteous will see it in a full table of 3 golden feet, legs. You have only 2 golden legs. Why? Because 1 golden leg you use now. It means to say, when you are asking from God to pay you now for your good, you're missing something there. And there is the real reward. Yeah, you'll have a better life here, but what's going to be there? He tells, I saw a dream that you, not he, she will sit on a table of two golden legs. Go ahead.
She said to him, Are you content that everyone eats at a complete table, but we eat at a defective table? She said to him, What then shall we do to rectify this situation? Pray for mercy that it should be taken back from you.
Basically, pray for mercy to take away the gold and the financial goods that we have. To say for a person to have this strength to give up on his physical life, this story inspired thousands of Jews who are dedicating their life to learn Torah, and they live a very hard financial life. They've not. I mean, if their husband is learning Torah, I mean, the family is in poverty. That's bottom line. But this is the story they think that's later will sit at the table with 3 legs, while here it's with the 2 legs. That she prayed and asked for, he prayed to God, he should take away from him the financial goods that he shouldn't miss because of that in afterlife, in the world to come. Go ahead.
He prayed for mercy, and it was taken back. Atana taught, the last miracle was greater than the first miracle, for we have a tradition that things are given from heaven, but are not taken back.
You don't take from heaven, they give you, it's yours. They don't, to turn things around, basically, to undo things that were done, that's an impossible miracle. And that's the miracle that took place of Chanina ben Dosa. That we see here, obviously it's not something that everybody can live up to. And Chanina ben Dosa was a man who lived in a level from above the physical life. He looked things on a different, he measured things in different ways. Then the Gemara comes with another story about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa.
The last miracle was greater than the first.
Yeah, right there. The Gemara. On top of the page. Yes.
Oh, the Gemara now relates another incident about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. On Friday evening at twilight, he saw that his daughter was sad. He said to her, "My daughter, why are you sad?" And she replied to him, "I mistook a container of vinegar for a container of oil, and I poured the vinegar into the lamp and lit the Sabbath light with it."
She made a mistake between oil and vinegar. It happened to me once too. Not by lighting candles, but by making food. And when I was a young boy, and I put vinegar instead of oil. Then I can tell you that, well, by me, the miracle, I didn't have miracles. I had to throw it away, the food. It was vinegar. She lied the vinegar instead of the oil, and it's Shabbos already, and cannot change it. And soon the light will be out, and we'll sit in the dark. What he told her?
Okay, he said to her, "My daughter, what does it matter to you? The one who commanded oil to burn, he could command vinegar to burn as well." Tanya taught, the lamp continued to burn the entire day of the Sabbath until they took it from it the flame for Havdalah at the conclusion of Sabbath.
When Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, "What do you care? Oil, vinegar, the vinegar is going to burn." Then when a tzaddik says the vinegar will burn, but the vinegar will burn all night, till Shabbos was over. Oil never burned for a whole Shabbos. For Friday night, at whatever, 10 o'clock at night, whatever it was, and finished. This, because it was a miracle, it burned until Saturday night. They took fire for the Havdalah candle from the burning of the miracle, of the vinegar. That's what happens when a tzaddik is giving you a blessing. Then what does this mean? Tzaddikim have the power because they are, here it's because more of his prayer. That was his main thing. But you see, there were always, throughout history, there were people, there were men who were so connected to God, who were able to change the realities. And when people listened to them, they were successful. And when people didn't listen, things didn't work out. And that was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. That was, the Hasidic movement is based on Chanina ben Dosa. Understand? The Baal Shem Tov of the Older. Now, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai were two separate personalities. But some rabbis had both of them. It doesn't have to be one and not the other. You understand what I'm saying? The Gemara relates another story about Chanina ben Dosa.
Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa had some goats. People complained to him, "Your goats are damaging our fields." He said to them, "If it is true that they are damaging other people's fields, may bears devour them. And if it is not true, may each goat bring home with it in the evening a bear on its horns."
In the evening, each and every goat brought back a bear on its horns.
Now, first of all, it's another miracle. When the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America, they made a big dinner, I think in 1942. They invited Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik, to speak there. He was also kind of relatively a newcomer. He was close with Chabad from Russia and from Europe. He learned with the Rebbe in University of Berlin, that they knew each other very well. Was still the previous Rebbe, and he gave a whole sermon at the dinner. He compared the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. And he brought a few stories. And he says, I was in Russia, he says, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that the vinegar should burn, the vinegar burned. Means to say, the Hasidim did whatever needs to be done, and if a miracle has to take place, a miracle will take place. Because when you have this faith and you have the blessing of a tzaddik, it'll work out. I mean, I have a nephew, in honor of Lag BaOmer, there is all over the world, the Rebbe inspired they should do picnics like we're going to have here, and parades for Lag BaOmer. My nephew opened a Chabad house in a new city in Israel, next to the occupied territories, but it's within the green line, if you want. And he needs to make an event. He wants to make an event, and it's a new neighborhood. And the only place that there is a place to make an event is in the community center. And the guy is in charge of the community center, and the city guys, they don't want Chabad, basically. They're trying to make anything in their power. It shouldn't be successful. And in the last week, he organized things that they gave him such hardships, and they needed from him. They told him, you need a permit for this, not permit for this, not permit for this. Things that take 6 months. He got it in 2 days. Because when you go with the power of a tzaddik, because I told him, if you will believe that you're doing the Rebbe's work, then nothing will stop you. Nobody will be able to stop you. And that's when the fire, and it means to say, the sheep of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa can move the bears who are against them. I mean, it was true in Russia. That's what the Rabbi Soloveitchik said. He says in Russia, the Hasidic Jews were fighting the communist government. I mean, the great Russian power, Hasidic Jews who had nothing, who had no money and no power and no nothing, survived as Jews. Communism is gone. And Jews came out from Russia, still Jewish. There is in Russia today, Judaism is flourishing. They don't want this fight. The Hasidim from Chanina ben Dosa. And that's what it's all about. That when you have a connection, even if you are not Chanina ben Dosa, if you are the disciple, you're doing the mission of Chanina ben Dosa, that's what is happening. And that's a whole different prophet used to make miracles. We have in the prophets, right? Elisha made miracles. Elisha, a woman, he resurrected a boy who died. He gave her a blessing for the boy. She did not have children. He gave her a blessing. And Elisha did double amount of miracles that Elijah made. That's what the blessing from Elijah to Elisha was, that we see it during the prophet's time. That's how God set it up. Moses made miracles, then the prophets made miracles, then throughout the Talmudic rabbis, there were Talmudic rabbis, that was their profession, if you want. And then was all the way until our generation. There were people who were able to alter nature by the powers, by the spiritual connection to God.
Is it fair to say that all 7 Lubavitcher Rebbe were tzaddiks?
Absolutely. Sure. If not, I wouldn't be here. That's the time here is a miracle. Really. I came to Solon. We were, I was like, Remember we had a guy he gave us the first, my father-in-law called him here that he's interested in opening a shul in Solon. He says, my father-in-law called him, tells me, it's a young couple, they want to try it. We need money for rent. For 6 months, give us $6,000 rent. For 6 months, it was $1,000 a month. And let's give him a chance. That's how we started. From nothing. Then where you take the strength, it's when you go, it's not my strength. When you're connected to a tzaddik and you do work on behalf of the Jewish people, it's not about you, it's not about him, then Hashem makes it happen. Then the vinegar burns. If you need vinegar to burn, the vinegar will burn. Whatever needs to take place will take place. If needs to have light in a city, that vinegar will burn. It will happen, one way or another. Remember, years ago, we wanted to rent a place. It was belonging to the city, and some people made problems. And we needed a place for our Hebrew school. And it was Sunday when we needed a place for the Hebrew school, and Friday we had nothing. We met with the mayor at that time, and he started. He wanted to help us, but he tells me we need it. I told him we need it for Sunday. The other advisor said it's impossible for Sunday. I told them Sunday morning we are going to learn that. It was Friday noon. He made it happen. It was really a miracle. It was like unbelievable. What I mean to say is when you connect it, and that's what Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa is teaching us. Something needs to happen, it takes place. The Gemara tells of another miracle wrote by Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa.
Rabbi Chanina had a certain woman neighbor who was building a house, but the beams did not reach from wall to wall. She came before Rabbi Chanina and said to him, I built my house, but my beams do not reach from wall to wall. He asked her, what is your name? She replied to him, Aiku.
Aiku, that was your name.
He said, Aiku, may your beams elongate and reach from wall to wall.
He said, he gave her a blessing that your beams should be from wall to wall. And what happened?
A Tana taught, the beams elongated until they protruded a cubit on each side of the wall. And some say the beams were made longer by means of sections that were miraculously added to their extremities.
Whatever it is, the house stood one way or another. If Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa said that the house is going to stand, it's going to stand.
It was taught in
the Braise. Plimo says,
I saw that the house and its beams protruded a cubit on each side of the wall. And people told me, this is the house that Rabbi Ben Dosa covered with beams throughout his prayer.
Years later, people used to point on the house and say, this is the house that Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was giving a blessing for. And that's a whole new level of Jewish belief in tzaddikim throughout history, that God reveals himself. What lays behind it? God used to be in the time of the temple. God revealed himself through miracles in the temple. You walked into the temple, the fire that was used to light the menorah every night, right? One candle used to burn until the next night. You used to put the same amount of oil in every branch of the menorah. All of them burned out in the morning. One of them burned until next night, miraculously. The fire of the altar, they could not even bring any wood, they would burn by itself. That a person walked into the temple, he didn't need to believe in God. He saw God. He said, what do you mean? I came to the temple. Why we need to go 3 times a year? They went to the temple. Because going to the temple meant feeling God. You come back home, you say you're inspired. I said, well, who said there is a God? What do you mean you said? I saw him. I saw God in action. Then after the temple is destroyed, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was doing the temple. But after the temple was destroyed, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa there were miracles. Hashem reveals how Hashem reveals himself to the tzaddikim of every generation. The tzaddik is like the Ark of the Covenant. And inside is the 2 tablets. What means the 2 tablets? God. That's a tzaddik. The tzaddik is a person who embodies, who is representing God on earth. And he himself is a miracle usually, that he's alive and the way he lives. But more than that, when he gives a blessing to somebody, it's working. It's going. And that's what the tzaddik is all about. Now, some tzaddikim were great scholars, some tzaddikim were not great scholars. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, there is not one Talmudic statement in learning quote from him. It's written, he says a matter of behaviors, he says how you should behave, but nothing, no Talmudic discussion. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is all over the Talmud, right? Comes to prayers. Then what does this mean? There is people who are great in Torah. They bring the Torah from God to people. There is people who are praying to God. Prayers comes from bottom up. See, every Shabbos have a conversation with God. We speak to God, God speaks to us. Prayers, we speak to God. Learning Torah, the Torah reading in the synagogue is God speaking. Prayers, we speak to God. Learning Torah, God speaks to us. That's what is. They were the two. Really, would be like Moses and Aaron. Moses was the man of Torah. Even Moses made miracles too. But in general, it's more a Moses and Aaron type of personality. Aaron was the high priest. What's the job of the priest? To go into the Holy of Holies and pray on behalf of the Jewish people. I want to turn on the recordation. It's a little boring. Don't mind, before everybody falls asleep. That Moses was giving the law. He was the representative of God, of the Torah. Where Aaron was the opposite of it. And throughout history, we had leaders of two types. Really, was like the Rebbe, the seventh Rebbe, was a great scholar and a teacher, and together with that was a holy man. They had a very unique combination that he was able to accomplish so much. Because he had I remember once I heard from a great rabbi who was in New York, and he said, I saw many rabbis who are very big scholars, I saw many rabbis who are leaders, I saw rabbis, he said, but I never met a guy with a combination of everything. He said that was so unique about the Rebbe. And that's what he was talking about. I just saw last night a Jew that I know from Israel. He came from Russia. His name was Berle Zaltzman. He was a singer. He was an opera singer. He came from Russia. He came in the early 70s. He was a chazan. The Rebbe said he should daven in the synagogue on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. It was very inspiring. The Rebbe told them, I want you to stay in New York and to do a concert. And the Rebbe made sure that people should invite them. And the Rebbe did the whole thing. And he had like 12 concerts. It was unbelievable. And he had money. And he's going to Israel after a few months. He tells the Rebbe he wants to buy a laundromat, like a dry cleaning business. He had money. The Rebbe told him he should make first the Rebbe told him, I want you to make a record. Now that you are famous, I want you to make a record. A Russian Jew promoting Judaism, showing that were religious Jews even in Russia. And it started, the Rebbe told him the Rebbe used to give out, there was a Farbrengen. The Rebbe told him, sing a song. Okay, sing one Russian song. Another, no. The Rebbe tells him, he finished the song, the Rebbe tells him, no. In everything that he's trying, 30 songs. He said that was his repertoire for all his concert later. All the songs that the Rebbe forced him to come up to his mind. He made one record. He came next year to New York with a record. Beautiful. The Rebbe told him, now you need a second record. He says, yeah, I want to open a dry cleaning. The Rebbe told him, very good, you have no money, but don't forget about the record. Came to Israel, the dry cleaning didn't work, and he was so busy, and he was so this, he didn't do the second record. He comes to New York a year later. The Rebbe asked him, he comes in for a private audience. And the Rebbe tells the Rebbe, yeah, I have problems with the dry cleaning. It doesn't give me enough business. He left last year with a lot of money, enough to buy a dry cleaning and to start a business. And here he does them the dry cleaning is not working. He does them business, simple. Nobody gives him business. The Rebbe is asking him, what's with the record? Tells the Rebbe, I'm so busy and I don't have money. The Rebbe told him, with Stalin, you were able to survive, right? And a few $1,000 you cannot get. Last time the Rebbe even gave him money for the record. He says, yeah, I will do it. I know the real best. He comes back to New York, complains to the Rebbe that he doesn't have business is bad. And the Rebbe is only one question, what's in the record? Comes to Israel, things are only getting worse. One Friday afternoon, he came home from his dry cleaning like half hour before Shabbat with his car. He was in the car, he was depressed. He didn't have money for food at the table. He didn't want to get up, go into his house. He didn't have the strength to go home. A friend passed by. He said, Berle, why are you sitting in the car? It's half hour before Shabbos. He says, come here, doctor. He sits down in the car, his friend, and he tells him the whole story. He said that my wife tells me it's because you don't do the record. The Rebbe told you to do the record of Hasidic song, of Jewish songs in Russia. And he says, and I know she's right, but I'm lost. his friend who was at Minsk, he told him, don't worry. You go enjoy Shabbos, Saturday night, you will call the producer who did it last time, and I will pay for the whole record. And when you make money, you'll give me back. Saturday night, he calls the producer. He made an appointment for Sunday in Jerusalem to come to meet him. Sunday morning, a guy walks into his dry cleaning. He says, we have 150 robes that we have to clean every day. Can you do it for us? Sunday morning. And he said, and business started to boom again, and he did a second record. And then when he business, the Rebbe once told him in one of the conversations, if you have to move on for other things, rent out the business. And after he became a famous singer, he moved to California. And he says he wanted to sell the business a few times, and it never worked. He's still collecting rent until today. The Rebbe told him then, you rent the business, like, by the way, you rent the business out. He tried to sell it 1,000 times. He was able to sell the machinery, never the building. And he still collect. Now he's not regretting because it's worth much more. What does this mean? When a tzaddik tells you to do something, if you do it, just do it. Don't mess around. And if you do it, Hashem will help you. And that's the power. That's the power of that's the stories of Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. It's all about. There are people who are connected to God to such a level. It's written, there is a verse in the Bible that says, Im totzi yakar mizolel kefi tiyeh. If you will take out precious from the bed, you'll be like me. Your mouth will be like my mouth. What does this mean? If a tzaddik saves Jewish children from assimilation and brings them to learn Torah, yakar mizolel, yakar is the precious, or the ultimate precious. The Jewish kids are precious more than the finest gold that there is. Ayekorim mipaz, they are more precious than the highest paz is the highest level, the most pure level of gold, pure gold, the most refined gold. Then the Jewish child is more precious than the most refined gold. That when somebody is able to bring Jews back to Judaism, that Hashem tells them, your mouth is like my mouth. It means, what does this mean? If you give a blessing, you will be able to bend nature. God adjusts himself to what the tzaddik is giving a blessing. That if the tzaddik tells you it's going to be this way, it's going to be this way. Don't argue. Just do it, everything will work out. And this is a man that I knew him in Israel. I remember him from the 70s. So when we came from Russia, I remember him singing on Chabad events. He's a family connected to me also. And I heard the story before, but I heard it now on a video, the whole full story. What I mean to say is, that's what it takes to, and when people don't listen on the other end, there's a very rich man in what's his name, in Toronto, I think, the Reichman family. And one of the brothers studied with the Rebbe in Berlin in university. And when they were very, very rich in the 80s, they came to the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe, they wanted to invest in a big project, real estate, in London. I forgot the name of the project, it was a famous project. And the Rebbe told them, I don't think it's a good idea. Yeah, it's too far, it will be, spread yourself too thin. Fine. He had other brothers, he had other partners, they didn't listen. They invested. They lost everything now. And the moment they sold it, real estate in London is the highest real estate in the world, probably. The Rebbe is a businessman? No. But the Rebbe is connected. And you asked me, he asked the Rebbe, he told you. It's not about, he's not a businessman, but you asked him, what came out from his mouth is the will of God. And he tells you, he's so connected. What does this mean? A tzaddik is so connected, it's like spiritual telepathy. He has it. Let's finish the story. The Gemara returns to the incidents cited above regarding Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's goats. Go ahead.
And ask, from where did Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa come to possess goats?
He didn't get goats, the guy. He was so poor, he had nothing.
Why, he was poor in the extreme. And moreover, the sages said, one is not permitted to raise small cattle in Eretz Yisrael. Mar answers, Rav Pinchas said, it happened that a person passed in the doorway of Rabbi Chanina's house and inadvertently left some chickens there. and inadvertently left some chickens there.
She
and
forgot some chickens by his door.
And Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's wife found them. Do not eat their eggs.
Rabbi Chanina told
her,
her,
do not eat their eggs.
why? Because it's not theirs. Somebody lost a chicken. You cannot take it. It's not ours. We cannot use it. Yeah, go ahead.
Eventually, they produced many eggs and chickens, which became a nuisance to them.
It became a whole thing. They didn't know what to do with them. Go ahead.
Rabbi Chanina and his wife. So they sold the eggs and the chickens, and he bought goats with their proceeds.
Mm-hmm.
One time, the very man who had lost the chicken passed by the house of Rabbi Chanina and mentioned to his friend, I once left my chickens here. Rabbi Chanina overheard this and said to him, do you have any identifying mark on those chickens? He replied to Rabbi Chanina, yes. He provided Rabbi Chanina with a valid identifying mark and took the goats. And these were the very goats that brought bears on their horns, as related in the Gemara above.
It means to say, the goats that Rabbi Chanina, everybody complained about them, were not even his, and he didn't benefit from 1 inch of them. He was so careful with other people's money that he didn't take 1 cent of anybody's. Somebody is lost. A chicken cannot even be reclaimed because there is no. And he made it. That's what that tzaddik is all about. There is another story, it's not here, about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, that once he wanted to bring a present to the temple. He wanted to bring something. And he was so poor, he had nothing to offer. Then he found a stone. That this stone, in the olden times, the buildings, you take a stone, if one stone is bad, you replace it with another stone. He found a stone, he shaped it, he cleaned it, he made it good, and he needed to take it to Jerusalem. What? He did not have money even he needed to hire a moving company. Yes, he needed a moving company. Finally, 4 people showed up, told him, yeah, whatever money you have is good enough. We will take it to Jerusalem, but with one condition. You should also help us. He helped them, he put his finger there, and they came to Jerusalem, and he wanted to pay them, they disappeared. The rabbis in Jerusalem told them there were angels who came to help him. Then the question is, if Hashem is sending angels to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, why they needed Rabbi Chanina to help him? Anyway, it's a miracle thing. Why you need his finger there? What do you think?
It's like jumping in the water.
God is ready to help you. But the first step always must be done by us. If we are not ready, we have to start. Then God will help you. It's written that Moses picked up put together the tabernacle. The Talmud says every beam was 10 amos tall, 15 foot tall. Moses had the strength to do it. It was a miracle. God told Moses, you try to do it and I will help you. And if you need a miracle, what do you need Moses there? God wants us to try our best. Miracles don't come like this. I will sit like this and say, God, please make a miracle. It doesn't work like this. When you are ready to go all the way, to do everything in your power, then God will kick in and make the miracle. But we have to make the vessel. And the vessel is 2 things. First of all, to be dedicated, to do it all the way, and then to have faith that Hashem will come in and will put his 2 cents, so to speak, and will make sure that the miracle takes place. And that's the power of the Hasidic movement that established the concept that we have the power to define, to break nature, to change nature. If something Jewish has to be accomplished, something good has to be accomplished, it will be accomplished. And if the whole world might be against it, too bad. We will still do it. And it's going to work out.
Is it fair to say that there's one tzaddik in one generation or many tzaddiks?
And some generations had more than one tzaddik. Some generations had only one tzaddik.
Always one, or
almost in every generation was a tzaddik. Almost. Today? The Rebbe passed away. I'm still looking for the tzaddik.
I was going to ask that, but
I didn't meet him yet.